Some people like autumn, some like winter, and most people like summer, but not me. Spring is the best season. Why? You got March Madness, the start of baseball, you have the NHL and NBA playoffs, soccer, and my favorite sporting event, the NFL Draft. For me, this is the best time of year, and it's not even really close. You have some beautiful weather, everything is blooming, and the sports world is in complete chaos, just how I like it. And we have a heck of a show for you guys today, covering almost all of these springtime sensations. So without further ado, I'm Harris Rubenstein, and welcome to the Box Score.
Joe has had his moments. 2 balls and 2 strikes on.
If you have been paying attention to sports at all this week, your poor brain has had to absorb more of the NFL's crap about their former players' poor brains. In another attempt for who really knows what reason at this point, the NFL denied again that concussions from football can lead to CTE, which is seriously a shame because we are just 2 weeks away from Jeff Miller, the NFL's Senior Vice President for Health and Safety, saying this.
Mr. Miller, do you think there is a link between football and degenerative brain disorders like CTE?
Well, certainly, Dr. McKee's research shows that a number of retired NFL players were diagnosed with CTE. So the answer to that question is certainly yes.
You did it, NFL! Yes, I'm so very, very proud of you. You finally have matured into a responsible sports league. Just kidding. 2 NFL owners denied the existence of CTE, and Jim Irsay compared concussions to taking aspirin. So close, NFL. So close. But that's not even the worst of it. This week, the New York Times released a pretty phenomenal article on concussions, the NFL, and its ties to big tobacco companies that I really insist our viewers go and read. The worst part was the NFL's extremely defensive response to this article. Now look, I've read through the NFL's response, and from their point of view, it's entirely accurate. They aren't a big tobacco company, and the NFL has every right to defend itself, but this isn't Al Jazeera. The New York Times is arguably the most reputable newspaper on the face of the planet. And for the NFL to refute them the way they are is completely unacceptable. You are a sports league. You're not the mafia. It is not your job or place to go to war with every single publication that says you did something wrong. To be frank, NFL, you look like a crying child. This whole thing has gone too far. Your unchanging stance on concussion issues is really starting to piss off the general public and your entire fan base. Why are you fighting so hard to try to silence a basic scientific fact that has become general knowledge? You get concussions in football, and those concussions can lead to serious brain injuries. Done. Game over. Sorry you can't silence the art of science. This is people's jobs, their passion, and in 34 cases so far, their lives. Every sports league around the world seems to be on board with bringing sports to the modern age. It's time to join them, NFL. Welcome back, guys. So, Maria, we're finally here. Final Four, March Madness is coming to an end. We've had an incredible tournament. We have a 10 seed in the finals with Syracuse, but we'll start off with a couple of these games. First game that we'll go over, Oklahoma versus Villanova. Who do you have winning?
I'm going Villanova.
Ooh.
I'm going Villanova. I think Villanova, they want to make a big comeback, and I think that it is extremely possible. They've been playing hot streak. On Oklahoma, they have Buddy, and I think you can't win with one guy. I think Villanova is great at team basketball. I think they have great team chemistry, and I think that an entire team could take on one person. I don't think that Oklahoma has, an entire roster that can take on Villanova. And again, Villanova's on a hot streak, and I think they can do it.
Mm-hmm. So how do you slow down someone like Buddy Hield? The guy's averaging like 20 points per game so far in the tournament. blowing people out of the water. But like you said, Villanova with that good team defense, do you really think they have the tools to stop someone like Buddy Hield?
I think they do have the tools to stop someone like Buddy Hield. I think that Oklahoma is really great when they're not in transition, when they're in their court set. I think that if they, could apply great defensive pressure in the front court and don't allow them to get into a set play, that they won't have to worry about a guy like Buddy Hield. And I think, you're going to have to really apply help defense. And, like I said, if you could stop them in the front court, they don't have a chance to have Buddy Hield the ball.
Very nice. So looking over to the other side of the tournament, somehow my UVA Cavaliers, who I predicted on our last show to win the tournament, with Michigan State out, they blow it completely. That ridiculous lead that they blew to Syracuse on that 25-4 run in the second half. What do you see with this Syracuse team that might have them beat UNC? I'm
going to make a bold prediction. I think Syracuse could win the entire tournament. That I know, bold prediction. But the Orange, as far as I'm concerned, they may be a number 10 seed, like you said, but they certainly aren't playing like one. UNC on paper, I think they're the best team in the league, but looking at everyone's busted March Madness brackets, anything could happen. I know personally, playing sports my entire life, that it is difficult in any sport, in any league, in any division to beat any team 3 times in a season.
Right.
And I think Syracuse, they're on a hot streak. I think if they could limit UNC's rebounds, if they could, be just as hot behind the arc as UNC normally is, like I said, anything is possible.
So with this Syracuse team that we just saw take down UVA, on UNC they obviously have their couple stars. You got Bryce Johnson, who's just named first-team All-American from the AP, someone like Marcus Page, who we know is super clutch. Do you think that UNC even has a chance against the Syracuse team that is really just surprise everyone? They just keep coming back and winning these games somehow.
Yeah, I think UNC definitely has a chance. Again, like I said, personally, if you go into a game thinking, hey, we've beaten this team 3 times in a row, and you play down to Syracuse's level, you're going to lose. I think Syracuse, I think one of the best things that they have to offer is their team chemistry. They play well together. There is no one superstar. You give any of those 5 guys the ball, they can score. So, yeah, I think Syracuse really has a hot chance at winning.
Last question. So interesting championship game you'll be setting up for us. Villanova versus Syracuse. You mentioned team basketball. I personally am on that side. I think it's going to be Oklahoma UNC. But if we have these 2 team basketball things between Villanova and Syracuse, what gives Syracuse the leg up on Villanova?
Like I said, against them playing UNC, they really, really do play good team basketball. I don't think they have any one big superstar. I don't think they have any huge egos. I think if they, again, could focus on rebounding is sometimes an issue for that team. If they could focus on rebounding, if they can, get hot behind the arc, they can win. I seriously think this team can win.
So Maria Santora chooses Syracuse as her champion. Maria, thank you so much for that.
Thank
you. But speaking of Buddy Hield, we talked about how high his draft stock has been rising. So we'll go over to Sam Smith. Speaking of draft stock, Sam, this is the NFL draft. This is my favorite sporting event of the year. You better honor it well. So let's start off with this. If you were to choose one offensive player that you think is going to blow people out of the water from being drafted and with the draft combine, who do you think it's going to be?
You said strictly offensive player.
Yes,
a lot of
sir.
people are going to like me to say a wide receiver, a running back, something along those lines. I'm going to go with the not sexy pick, the pragmatic pick. I'm going to go with Ronnie Stanley of Notre Dame. Last year, he could have had the option to come and play or go to the draft. He had a high draft potential. He decided to stay with Notre Dame, try to get a national title. We saw how that worked out for Notre Dame. However, the guy's got fantastic technique, something you can't really teach. It's tough to get when you're new like that. 6'6", 316. He's improved his run blocking skills. The only main question about him right now is core strength, and that's something you can figure out in any NFL weight room. So it would be Ronnie Stanley. I think he's going to be a great cornerstone for any good offense. I figure he's going to go easily top 5.
So Ronnie Stanley versus someone like a Laramie Tunsil that we saw, do you think that Stanley could be potentially picked before Tunsil, or do you think Stanley's going to be that second option offensive tackle?
Well, I mean, the problem is with Ronnie Stanley, currently with projections, people are honestly having questions, like I mentioned, about his core strength. I think that's going to be something that's going to ultimately be a mistake. The issues that he saw at the college level was that bull rushers would try to take him on, and that core strength wasn't allowing him to take them on properly. I think people are going to underestimate him. I think he's a top 5 pick. However, I think he's going to go outside the top 10. I can see the arguments against him, but once again, I think his technique is just too strong for him not to be taken at a reasonable point, a 10 or a 10 to 15 range.
Fair play. So let's go on to defense. So obviously we've seen a couple of linebackers, Jalen Smith from Notre Dame, obviously going down with that tragic knee injury. We've seen a lot of defensive players, unfortunately, have their draft stocks kind of tanked due to injury. One of those guys I know that you want to talk about is Miles Jack, guy from UCLA. We've seen him not be able to do all the stuff at the combine due to his knee injury in college. What do you see from Miles Jack as he transitions to the NFL?
Well, first thing I'm going to say about Miles Jack is if you mumble his name, he kind of sounds like Khalil Mack, which is always a plus. However, Miles Jack, in February, he was saying that he was about 80%. People were talking about him not running his 40 at his pro day. However, this guy, when he injured himself in late September, he withdrew himself from UCLA. He committed himself to rehab. He's a guy that at 100%, he's going to immediately contribute to any NFL franchise. He can play inside linebacker, outside linebacker. The guy can shred through blocks. The guy's a sound tackler. He's drawing comparisons to Navarro Bowman. Honestly, if you're thinking about someone who's a rookie you're going to pick up on your fantasy team, this guy is going to rack up solo tackles. He's going to be like just racking them up like crazy,
for those weird IDP leagues. And hey, also, Miles Jack played some running back at UCLA, so maybe get you some rushing yards as well.
He averaged 6.5 yards per carry at running back, which is
what
interesting.
A monster.
Not
what
too
a
bad.
monster. So moving on from outside this offense and defense, let's look at some skill players. This draft, in my opinion, is stacked at running back and wide receiver. I really think this is going to be one of the stronger skill position years. Obviously headlined by Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, wide receiver position, someone like Josh Doxson or Corey Coleman from TCU and Baylor, respectively. Who are some other guys, or a guy, I should say, that you think could really shine in the NFL?
Well, I personally am a value guy. I go to Goodwill frequently. These shoes are from Goodwill. They're Johnston & Murphy. Beautiful shoes. Anyway, point being, we're talking about Laquan Treadwell. People are recently talking about how his draft stock has plummeted a little bit because he ran a 4.65 40. I could run I couldn't run a 4.65. Anyway, point being, the guy is just incredible. He's drawn comparisons to DeAndre Hopkins, who ran a 4.6 40 in his draft. He's drawn comparisons to Anquan Bolden because
I like that one.
Ole Miss, their offense ran him as an underneath receiver a lot. The guy could be a vertical threat on the vertical. From the vertical point of view, he's drawing comparisons to Des Bryant. Those are three wide receivers that I'm okay with with him drawing comparisons to. He's just been good. Sugar Bowl, he had 3 scores. He's been overall solid, and on top of that, he was a Biletnikoff finalist. The nation decided that he was worthy of being one of the top 5 wide receivers in the nation in NCAA. I think he's going to end up going 15 because, the 4.65 isn't the most favorable rating to have for a wide receiver, but I think whoever gets him at 15, they're going to get someone who's going to immediately contribute, especially because of how well he played underneath, which is huge for rookies. Definitely.
Yeah, we saw him get that pretty tragic ankle injury in his junior year at Ole Miss.
Yes.
Give me one team that you think would just, would do so well to have someone like Laquan Treadwell on their team.
Honestly, I mentioned DeAndre Hopkins. With the way the Texans are sitting in the draft, I could see them dropping. Honestly,
Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, absolutely. Brock Osweiler is a guy still who's going to be in the league. I honestly just think he's Matt Flynn. But point being, either way, DeAndre Hopkins is going to draw that primary corner, and I think that they're talking about having Laquan Treadwell play in the slot a lot. Great place for a rookie. I think a 1-2 punch of DeAndre and Laquan, it's going to be out of this world. I'm going to say he's going to go to the Houston Texans.
Well, Sam, I got to say you really did do my NFL draft justice. Thanks, buddy. So we'll see you guys back in a little bit for some nice hockey talk.
When we return, we go inside the Euros with Lloyd Mallison, and Sam and Maria return to talk some hockey and baseball here on The Box Score.
Lauren, what are you doing?
I'm getting ready to host Good Morning Emerson, of course.
Good Morning Emerson? What's that?
It's the best morning show ever that's on Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m.
Wow, how can I work on this?
Yeah, let's get going. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather.
Welcome back. Well, on this show, as you see, we've already done esports, so we're going to kind of go into more international sports. Lloyd Mallison here to talk about some soccer with us. Lloyd, I know you call football where you're coming from. We're going to talk a little bit about the Euros. Lloyd, what are we expecting from this tournament?
Sure, yeah, totally, Harris. Now, I know there's a very dedicated group of people pushing soccer hard in the States, and nothing helped their cause more than the World Cup. Right. But now, while the USA isn't in this tournament, it should be one of the most exciting displays of the sports in a while. I'm talking about Euro 2016. Beautiful. This year, it's being hosted in France, so let's begin with a look at them. Now, they're not being talked about particularly as favorites, which I think is a little odd, as they do have the home advantage, but we saw how well that played out for Brazil in 2014.
Very fair.
France are a good-looking team in my book. You know, they got midfield options of Pogba, Matuidi, Kante, who's had an awesome season for Premier League leaders Leicester, Payet, who's had an inspired year for West Ham. They would not be where they are today without him. And they have defensive starlets, Varane, Laporte. I do think you have to be careful, though, because that defense has looked a little shaky in some of those friendlies. But with an attack of Benzema, Griezmann, Lacazette, you know, they can just outscore the opponents, and, you know, oui, monsieur.
Exactly. So, you know, the host country is a good shot this year. Give me a couple of low-key competitors when we're talking about countries.
Sure, yeah, there's plenty of quality in this tournament, Harris. You know, we've got Belgium, who are always dark horses, especially if De Bruyne can find his form again after the injury he suffered at the end of this season.
Nasty knee injury, yeah.
Yeah. Portugal has a team of rising stars, and Ronaldo, so they're tough to discount. It'll also be interesting to see how a Spanish team that has such a poor showing in the World Cup can bounce back, especially as they're quite devoid of goals as a team. And they had such an embarrassing time in the last tournament.
So, you know, we have someone like an Alvaro Morata, the guy who plays for Juventus, trying to come in, maybe help out with those goals.
Exactly.
Not doing too great of a job with that Spanish national team, but we'll see if they can try to push away the sad days of old with that World Cup. So, Lloyd, I know there's one team that you've been dying to talk about. We talk about them all the time. What's the deal with the motherland? Come on, give it to me.
Well, as a patriotic person, my money has to be on England. You know, just for once, maybe my faith isn't entirely displaced, because after Saturday's win over tournament favourites Germany, anything's got to be possible, right? Now, England historically have had issues as a team, but a team of week-in, week-out stars who can't really play together has been replaced by a squad of in-form, uniform young players with the two top scorers in the Premier League on the team sheet. Right. And they beat Germany. Manager Roy Hodgson will have a very tough call to make, though, regarding Wayne Rooney. You know, the guy has been injured for a lot of this season. Can Hodgson justify dropping the two top goal scorers of the Premier League in the name of Wayne? It'll be a real test to see if Hodgson has the stones to do what no other manager has been able to before him. You know, pick a team and not the stars. And a team that can come from 2 behind to beat Germany is a team I wouldn't want to mess with. But one thing's for sure, if Rooney makes that squad, he's going to have to justify his spot more than ever before. But maybe a little motivation and competition is exactly what the former captain needs to regain some of that form after years of a guaranteed start.
Yeah, no, after their 2 friendlies, we see that he's clearly behind someone like a Kane, Jamie Vardy, Daniel Sturridge, way behind those guys. And, you know, we don't even know if he's going to be the second guy or even third guy off the bench, but, you know, poor Wayne Rooney, we'll see what he can do with England. But, Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us here at the little soccer talk. So let's head over to Sam. So, Sam, we're going from the field to the ice rink. I mentioned the NHL playoffs, one of my favorite times of the year also. I love playoff hockey. There's nothing really like it. You got Doc Emmerich on almost every single call, NBC Sports Network. What do you think is going to happen this year in the Stanley Cup? Give me your team out of the East.
My team out of the East, Harris, you know, you've known me. I am a die-hard Pittsburgh Penguins fan. Beautiful. I want to act not biased in this situation. However, the Pittsburgh Penguins have looked incredibly good since they fired Mike Johnston. I got to say, Mike Johnston, if you look up Mike Johnston GIF on the internet, I swear it's clean. It's a very cool old guy. In his first game, just pointing at the camera, but he's no longer there. He wasn't a good coach. They have Mike Sullivan currently, and currently the Penguins, they've won 8 of their last 9 games, one of which included a win over the Capitals. I was at that game at Consol Energy Center. Brandon Holtby for the Capitals, best goalie in the league right now. He got pulled in the second. They made him look very stupid. Either way, Sidney Crosby has been surging since the All-Star break. He was snubbed for the All-Star game, and since then he's had 15 goals, 22 assists, 1.37 points per game with Malkin out. Malkin's expected back, hopefully by the tail end of the first round of the playoffs. Just overall, we got Marc-Andre Fleury having a career year. We're looking at depth. We've got 7 players above 15 goals on the season. I just can't see this team not doing well, not getting past the first and going all the way to the Stanley Cup. I have them going to the Stanley Cup.
So cheeky pick, actually, wearing my nice Penguin tie, just, what a nice convenience there. But one thing that you brought that I really want to get into, over the past couple of years, maybe not so much like maybe last year or so, but Marc-Andre Fleury has always been a little bit of a danger of kind of just falling on his face in the playoffs. We saw him get taken out for Thomas Vokoun a couple of years ago. Goaltending's always been an issue for this Pittsburgh Penguins team. Even though they've won a couple cups with Fleury, he has had his off years. What makes you think that this is the year he finally pulls it together?
I remember very clearly the Thomas Vokoun year, and I think Thomas Vokoun was probably a starting goalie at his retirement home. Guy's old. He got pulled. It was bad. My thing is with Marc-Andre Fleury in the past, you've looked at their defense. They had those top defenders complete fall off. You had Paul Martin, Letang. Paul Martin's out. However, I think they have the depth now with the addition of Justin Schultz to add that little bit of help to Marc-Andre Fleury that's necessary to make him have what he is currently having is a career year in goals against and save percentage. I think the Penguins have done what they needed to on defense to address those problems, make Marc-Andre Fleury look like the top 10 goaltender. I'm not going to say elite, top 10 goaltender that he is.
Well, he's certainly going to need it for the next team that you say is going to come out of the West. One of my favorite teams, also kind of, I do harbor a teeny bit of hate because they got Tyler Seguin away from the Boston Bruins, and still it has to be one of the worst hockey trades I've ever seen. But Sam, bring me into the Stars. What's so great about this Dallas Stars team?
Well, you mentioned Tyler Seguin. He got 15% of his ACL cut. He's going to be out for the rest of the regular season, which is 7 games. Wherever that 15% of the ACL is, I would like to borrow it because I am not athletic. But anyway, point being, we're talking about the Dallas Stars. He is out for the rest of the season, but he is going to be back 100% for that first round of the playoffs. They've looked incredible. In the past week, they beat both the Sharks and Hawks, very good teams. They played down to Arizona, but they've had that tendency. My point is they're going to move on. They clinched their playoff spot a few days ago, 99 points. They've got 2 very competent goaltenders in Antti Niemi and Lehtonen. If one of them goes
Predator
down,
duel, yeah, from way back when.
Absolutely, and I just think that they, you've got Jamie Benn as your option without Tyler Seguin. With Tyler Seguin back, he looked in previous years when Seguin first went there. It was just Seguin. It was just Seguin driving that team. But they've got 11 players with 10 or more goals on the year. They've got their first in the league in goals per game. They're 4th in power play percentage. I just think this team has finally developed enough to go from a team that had won their AHL team won the Calder Cup. I think those young players have moved on enough to make the Dallas Stars a legitimate threat out of the West.
So last thing about the Stars, the West is really, really strong this year, especially in that California conference, as I like to call them. You have the Kings who've already clinched a playoff spot. You have the Ducks who've already clinched a playoff spot. Even the San Jose Sharks have rejuvenated themselves in the second half of the season with the play of Brett Burns. What do the Stars have to beat a team like the Kings or a team like the Ducks?
My primary thing is definitely going back to what I mentioned with that young team. That was something that I've been up on the Dallas Stars for so long. I believe that just the fact that, well, once again, like I mentioned, 11 players with 10 goals or more, I think they just have sheer depth. If you shut down Ben, if you shut down Seguin, it moves down to 3rd and 4th lines. I think they have better 3rd and 4th lines than any of those West Coast teams. Okay. I think when you come down to it, Game 6, Game 7, 3rd and 4th lines are going to win it for the Dallas Stars.
Very nice. Sam Smith giving us some NHL playoff preview.
Sam
Benson Smith. Give me one more time. Who's your Stanley Cup winner? Penguins, or are you going to get Stars? Penguins, Stars. Penguins,
Hartford Whalers. Pittsburgh Penguins.
Pittsburgh Penguins, take it. All right, great. Thanks so much, Sam. We're going to walk over here. So not so much hockey, but we're going to go back to baseball because our War Room segment this week is going to be quite extreme when we're talking about baseball. But give Maria the first thing. So let's start with some players. MLB awards. We'll start in the AL. Who do you got getting the AL MVP this year?
Like I said, I am going to make some very, very bold predictions tonight. I think Mike Trout is a cop-out. I think he's the easy answer. So I am going to go with Miguel Cabrera of the Tigers.
Miguel Cabrera of the Tigers. Give me one single reason why Miguel Cabrera over Mike Trout.
Well, assuming that he could stay healthy, he is, I believe, 32 years old. So assuming that he could stay healthy and have a season like he did last season, I think he has the potential to be one of the greatest players this year. Last year, he batted a .338, He drove in 96 runs in 119 games, I believe.
Yeah, nothing. He missed like 40 games or something.
Right, and he's only 92 home runs away from joining the 500 club. Wow. So I predict that he'll chip away at that and hit about 35 this year if he could stay healthy.
That'd be pretty nice. So also, let's go over to the National League. National League MVP. Last year, we saw Bryce Harper finally get the award, one of the best hitters in baseball. You have someone very interesting to choose for your NL MVP. I want to hear your explanation for this. NL MVP Marie Santori, give us your prediction.
I am going with the Cubs center fielder, Jason Hayward.
Jason Hayward, I love it. Why? Give me Jason Hayward reasons.
I think Jason Hayward is one of the best positional players in all of the majors. Last season was one of his best seasons in 3-4 years. I think if he could play like he did last year and excel a little bit, he's going to be fantastic.
And, you know, obviously joining the Chicago Cubs, that ridiculous lineup. So Jason Hayward, Miguel Cabrera, we'll see you at the end of the season, or the end of next season when we come back next year to see if you're actually right about that. Maria Santora giving us some baseball. Thank you so much. But when we come back, going back to that war room, bringing in Jack Ross to do a little baseball for us. So we'll be back.
After the break, Harris and company enter the War Room. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Aaron Kinigsberg, host of EIV's The Dish. Tune in every Friday for your chance to see what kind of bow tie I pulled out of my closet today. Maggie, did you put up the script yet?
No, that was your job.
Maggie, oh my god, I do it every week.
No,
I told you this is the one
but we
I
talked
didn't
about
want
this.
responsibility.
Okay. I need to pick my wedgie.
Oh my god, look, they got us slushies. Brain freeze. Oh my god, we're here.
He's queer.
Now get used to it. Come on, give me my mic. Mic me. Hi, I'm Christian Mudrick.
And I'm Maggie Morlap
And you're watching Real Reactions.
on the Emerson channel.
Sam Benson-Smith, Maria Santora, Jack Ross joining us for some War Room. Let's get into some baseball. So, guys, we had an incredible offseason. David Price going to the Red Sox. Jason Hayward, like you said, going to the Cubs. But now, let's get really down to business. I want some World Series predictions from all three of you. Sam, we'll start with the new guy. World Series predictions, hit me.
I'm going to go with the Chicago Cubs.
Okay.
I had primarily written at the top of my sheet that Joe Madden is Jesus. He is, in fact, Jesus.
Confirmed? Is this confirmed?
Confirmed.
I can't confirm it. Yeah, it's confirmed. I
Confirmed.
went to 13 years
did
of Catholic
rise.
school. I know Jesus.
He
when I
rose
see-
last weekend, right?
Well, on
Confirmed.
Sunday. Might be blasphemous. I don't know. Anyway, point being, Chris Bryant, I have my pick as this year. Crazy. I think he's going to win MVP this year. But you look at the Cubs, first in the league in WHIP, fifth in the league in Nene, but that's regardless. Anyway, moving on to third in the league in ERA last year, first in the league in strikeouts, and they continued to add in the offseason. Chicago Cubs are finally going to break that terrible, terrible streak that the Boston Red Sox formerly had. I think that the only people that are naysayers for the Cubs this year, they're looking beyond the statistics, they're looking at history. And I think if you look at the Cubs from purely the standpoint of the offseason moves they made, Hayward, the addition of Hayward, addition of Zobrist, I think that their young core, the addition of those veteran players, I think that's going to be enough to push them right over the edge. And I honestly think that, well, for example, Starlin Castro left, but they have one of the best infield prospects right now. He's listed as 22nd overall as far as MLB prospects. That's Gleyber Torres. They've got six prospects that are in the top 40 for MLB.com's top prospects. They're young. They're only going to get younger. This team is too good. I'm done. That's all I got.
So Sam Smith going with the Chicago Cubs, giving us a full mouthful. Kick it over to Maria. Who is your World Series prediction
I hate
this year?
to say it, but I actually agree with Sam for
Ew.
once.
Boo.
For once, I agree with Sam.
Do I need to leave?
You do need to leave, but for once, I agree with Sam. I think it's going to be the Chicago Cubs. When we went out to Florida for spring training, one of the things that we really noticed is that there is a huge youth revolution movement in baseball,
Absolutely.
and that having depth to your bullpen is extremely significant, and the Cubs have both of those things. We see that in their bullpen, they have guys like Arrieta, they have guys like Pedro Strop, they have guys like Cahill and Lester. They have a huge bullpen. They have depth, and that's important. And they're a team full of rookies. They were rookies last year, and they won 97 games. They went to the NLCS. And now they have a year of experience under their belt. They're going to be really good.
Very nice. So Maria Santora coming back with some youth. Jack, I know you are not too fond of the Cubs.
I'm not a huge Cubs guy.
And if I was a betting man, I think I know what team you're going to go with for your World Series prediction.
If you say the Mets, I'm leaving. If
no,
you say the Mets, I'm leaving.
Look, I like the Cubs, guys. Don't get me wrong.
No, you don't.
What team swept them in 4 games in the NLCS last year?
They were rookies.
Yeah,
They were rookies.
they're only 1 year older, and the Mets are a pretty young team too. So, I mean, yeah, granted they've had the experience they got there. They brought in a guy like Hayward. They brought in Zobrist, but you know, Zobrist is aging. He's up there. He's 34 years old, and Arrieta's good. But you know, Lackey had, I think, a season last year that was kind of an outlier. I don't think he can repeat that again. Same with Lester. So I'm going to go with what I consider a safe pick to be, and a pretty popular pick as well, along with the Cubs, the New York Mets. So obviously led by that front four, the hurlers, the Matt Harvey, Jacob deGrom, flame-throwing Noah Syndergaard, and Steven Matz, who last year did not lose a game in the regular season across 6 starts, pitched to a 2.27 ERA. And not to mention that they've got the ageless wonder, Bartolo Colon, who I think could potentially compete for the Cy Young this season. You know, joking, of course. Joking, of course. He's a fan favorite, as well as Zach Wheeler, who should come up in July and pitch out of the bullpen as well as a starter. And then not to mention, they surprised the entire baseball world when they brought back Yoenis Cespedes on a 3-year deal. Now, that guy hit 17 homers for the Mets last year, batted .293 down the stretch, was a huge part of the reason they went all the way to the World Series. He's going to have, I think, a monster season. He loves playing in New York. He, as Harris has said before, has those very fond memories of winning the MLB Home Run Derby there, so he has a blast playing in the spotlight. He's looked incredible so far in spring training. Combine that with a fresh, healthy season from David Wright, Curtis Granderson, who seems to actually get better with age, guys like an old cheese. And not to mention Lucas Duda now, a guy who's going to pop probably 30 home runs this year. They added Neil Walker, Asdrubal Cabrera, so they got a little better defensively on that infield, and I think they have one of the deepest benches in the MLB. They've got Wilmer Flores, who's a guy that could start for a lot of teams at shortstop. Juan Lagares, one of the best defensive center fielding replacements, also a guy that could bat .275, great against lefties. Eric Campbell, Kevin Pilecki, one of the best young catchers in the MLB that's going to play with Travis d'Arnaud because d'Arnaud isn't healthy a lot. But I think that combines with a pretty good bullpen led by Jerry Familia, who last year kind of broke onto the scene as one of the best closers in the majors. And I think they've got the experience of playing in the World Series. They're coming back with a vengeance, and the time is now for New York.
Well, I'm just saying, you just crapped on me on the break saying that Hayward can only bat .230, but you just said, oh, he hit .275, and you think that's good. But if you look at Hayward, he had his highest career stolen bases, his highest career batting average, and hits. So again, watch out for the Cubs. Watch out for the Cubs.
Cubs and Mets. I have to give my American League a little bit of love. I'm actually going with the Boston Red Sox this year. I don't care if it's a little bit biased. David Price coming back. Mookie Betts is going to win the AL MVP this year. Xander Bogaerts going to win that Silver Slugger, maybe even get that Gold Glove.
How's Carson Smith doing? Good.
Carson, hey, you know, just put on the deal, but hey, he's not going to be out for just too long. So Carson Smith going to be coming back. Great bullpen, great segment. Thanks, guys, so much. We'll be right back.
Place to go. Have no place to go. Darling, have no place to go. Have no place to go.
Hello everyone, welcome to this season of College Kitchen. I'm your host, Amelia Fabiano.
And I'm Aaron Kenigsberg.
College Kitchen is a show where we're going to take you around Boston to show you all the hottest food spots.
Whether that is man food, which is your burgers, your bacon, your meat, all that grease, yes.
Or like Sweet Talk, where we'll show you sweet tooth lovers where to get your cake fix, your ice cream fix, all that good stuff.
We also have Wild Card, which is your ticket to food from all over the world.
Or if you're on a budget, like I know I am, we'll take you in the kitchen with Alyssa to show you how to make college food on a budget. So sit back,
relax,
and enjoy
College Kitchen.
One of my favorite things in sports is one of the weird ways that baseball players somehow end up getting injured, because they find the craziest ways of getting hurt, whether it's like falling down dugout steps, or my favorite was Joba Chamberlain. He broke his ankle jumping on a trampoline with his kids, because, you know, baseball players are just the best despite their strange hand-eye coordination. But this time our target is Matt Harvey, who is in danger of missing his opening day start due to, well, let's take a listen.
I guess it started with a bladder infection that created a blood clot in the bladder, and passed it yesterday. It wasn't a great first day of my 27th birthday, but we cleared that, and then we had a little procedure done this morning just to go in and check the bladder, and everything was clear. And I'm cleared to go, cleared to do some minor activities today, and then we'll be back to normal tomorrow.
Can you
We wanted everyone to sit through every single awkward second of that interview. It's so beautiful. But Harvey will start opening day, like he said, but maybe he should just start to rethink what he does in between innings. But that's all the time we have for you this week. Find us on YouTube and on EIVnews.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter as well. But for all of us here at the Box Score, I'm Harris Rubenstein. Good night.